prepare and go through the whole process of crystal glazing.
There won't be a test.
There's a test, but you have to put your hand up when you ask a question.
Me? I don't have no questions.
No test. The booklets are just to, so you take it home as a reinforcement of what I do. So it's not a manual as such, but it will help.
Oh, it is.
And you can take notes on the opposite side, connected to it. I always do, separate rings and trays. You wouldn't bring trays in, everyone knows what a tray looks like. But the trays are thrown on bats and they just pop off. And because I have a lot of bats, so that's easy for me to just throw a tray. Doesn't matter how you make the trays. Just as long as they've got enough depth for your glaze run off. That all depends on your temperature and what you want to load up on. And when you make the rings separate, it gives you a lot of advantages. I throw them on the wheel in cone-shaped forms, and then I flame them and pair them off with a knife. And that's what I'll show you now. When you make a ring, you make sure it's deep enough so that it doesn't let the bottom of the pot get down into the well of glaze. So generally mine are 15 mil or longer. But I'm always looking for the shortest possible height in the kiln. So I'm getting away with the shortest possible ring. If you put a ring in that size, well then you waste all that space up above. If you've got top loaders and you've got all that space, no problem. You know, if you're not going to put another level in. I work out of a 40 cubic foot gas kiln. So it generally has 3 levels on standard sizes, sometimes 2, and then the one big pot level.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Why do you express linear dimensions in the metric system and volumetric
Good
dimensions in the stinking British system?
Yeah, just
Is that typical in
throwback.
Australia?
It came in the 60s or 70s. It's just a throwback. I've always thought of it as cubic feet for kilns.
Yeah.
That's just hung around.
Yeah,
It
but
should be.
interesting.
I know that it's stacking space is 1200 by 600 by 1200, and then I go, oh, okay, so 4 feet by 2 feet by 4 feet.
Yeah,
And
I'm
then
surprised to hear you not say it's about a cubic meter.
Yeah, I should do. It's an anomaly. So you measure all the bottoms. If you're measuring a dry pot, you allow for shrinkage. My play is 5% wet to dry, 1% dry to bisque, and then 10% in the rest. And when you make a big pot, you see that 10%, it just...
Yeah.
So you roughly adjust for it. The beauty of rings and trays, I'll show you in a moment, but one of them is you can just make a whole bunch and stack them. If you don't have the exact size, there should be one there in your collection.
Either the top or the bottom of it.
Either the top or the bottom. And that's exactly the point I'm coming to. You make cones here. Don't throw a straight cylinder. Make it slightly tapered. So when you pair off, you've got multiple ones that you can choose.
Yeah, you get
Keep
2 for
looking at
1.
Glenn.
Well, that's the way I do it, and I'm the only one in this class that does.
Well, John, you've got it right.
I could.
That's the way it
I'll join your class, John, and then there'll be 2.
It works for me.
I know.
You
We've
do
been-
end up with a bunch of rings, but you always need that one ring that you haven't got, haven't measured right.
Been trying to
Don't I always
convince
have
Glenn
one
for
ring
years.
Charging
A dollar piece, yeah.
There you go.
It's on you.
There's a business model as well.
For a bucket's worth it. Yeah.
It's just a simple ring. It doesn't have to be too fancy. Same with throwing. I'm going to go through everything that I do in my process. We all have different variations that we do. But if you can pick up something that is an improvement on what you do, that's great. If you've got a better way, I'd like to know too, because I'll probably adopt it. But what I'm saying is this is how I've been doing it for 20 so years, 30 years. Okay. This is where the flame gun is handy. All the hair dry. Hair dry is fine. I'm only referring to you because you asked the question.
That's okay, I'm cold.
No sexism here. So just quickly, turn it on for me, please. Thanks. Starting to slow down a little bit. So it'll be fine for today. This is the last I need it today. At home I have 2 cylinders, the size of these ones here. I think they're 190 kilos or so many pounds. And I have one has a liquid valve, so I can fill my own cylinders up because I use this a lot. And then I get tax deductible barbecue gas. But you will go through it. Everything counts.
You didn't use this whole tank today, did you?
No.
This week
All
probably.
week.
Yeah.
And it's not fully empty, but it's just slowing down. So we'll just dry this out. Won't take long. You roughly measure what you're looking for, make the cone shape. When you cut them off as neat as you can so you can use the reverse side. If it has a few dags, you can sand that off. Just want to get it a little bit further. You can almost do it till it's turning white. So I'll just demonstrate this. Now I like having a wheel like this with a switch, so I can turn it around. Use a standard craft knife, that's an old blade, but it'll do, with the replaceable blades. Nice and sharp and flat, so that when you go in flat, you can use both sides of the
Oh, well, that's a
ring.
good idea, because I use a needle tool and then I have to trim them all.
It'll burr its way in.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, so use a flat blade. It'll take a bit of getting used to,
Okay.
because it'll want to track sometimes, track up and down.
Yes.
So finger on the inside, go down. What's the problem?
Somebody else's food.
As soon as you go ouch, as soon as you say ouch, you know you've gone through.
See, they
When you
turn
see
when
when
it
it
turns
turns
red.
red.
Yeah.
What's that red stain?
So you can throw a cylinder. I throw little cylinders because you're only usually looking for so many sizes, so it's roughly the size you need. And you go in, measure down a distance, at least 15 mil or 2/3 or whatever it is, an inch. Fair enough. And because it's been flamed, it'll stay circular. I put it onto, we call it fibro board or compressed cement board.
Drywall.
Drywall, okay. You put it onto drywall and then it just absorbs the moisture, makes it simple. The next one you come to, you've got a bit of a dag there. Use the blade, flatten it.
Are you using the dull side of the blade?
No. They're both dull. They use the sharp side.
More like a rib, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, just flatten it down. So that's re-flattened. And then go again. It's quick, it's easy, it's simple.
But they have to be fairly dry, or when you picked it up, it lose the circle.
I would too.
It's quite dry. Yeah. As you go down the cylinder, it's still moisture in there. I didn't take it out. It gets wetter and wetter. When it gets to a point where you can't pick it up and keep it round, stiffen it up again. But generally, little rings like this, you can go quite soft. See, it's a bit more tackier. All fingers around the outside balance. Drop it off. And you just make a whole bunch. You can do your rings in a short time. Measure your pots, I write them down, different sizes. Try to get roughly around the same sizes. But if you do the exact same size, all your pots are exactly the same. And that's a bit restricting. I have a cast range of small pieces, and I know it's 64 mil. So for those, I just bunch off 64 roughly. Still in a slight taper, so that some of them might have trimmed a little bit in, a mil here, a mil there. When you make a ring, always make sure when you attach it, it's smaller than the base at least, never bigger.
Never bigger. Yeah.
Never bigger. That's a drama. So I always make more than I need. And after about 4 months, 5 months, you've got so many rings.
Right.
And some of them are all the same size. So you sell them, or just throw them, get rid of them, just keep the ones that are,